So today I'm at Rock Springs Elementary to address an email that's been circulating among the parents. It came from the principal, Brian Palmer, and it actually had the audacity to blame my child, my son, for me saying that this school needs to be looked into by scientists because it's a coal ash site. For me coming out here and saying, hey, these kids might be in danger. No one is going to use my child for their own agenda to downplay the dangers of children being on top of coal ash every day. You're not going to downplay all the victims on this lake because that is an insult to every single one of them. My child has nothing to do with the coal ash at your school. I was accused of spreading misinformation, and the news article that came out of this said it was misinformation. So I'm out here today just to straighten up a few facts. But how about let's leave the victims out of it and let's address the actual facts. Let's get some real scientists out here, because I've been doing this for 6 years. I've spent hundreds of hours doing research, going through records, sitting in on meetings with some of the world's top scientists, and every single one of them will tell you children should not be anywhere near coal ash toxins, anywhere near it at all. So no one's going to sit there who just got involved 2 minutes ago and tell me that there's nothing to worry about out here, that the children are perfectly safe. That's not happening.
Do you think it's safe?
Safe for kids to play over the top of coal ash? No.
Dr. Julia Kravchenko is an assistant professor with the Duke University School of Medicine.
I don't think it's safe.
The mother has researched the dangers of coal ash. Would you let your kids play on top of coal ash?
No.
She says scientists continue to learn more about the risk to humans, identifying a laundry list of potential health impacts.
Long-term exposure is much worse.
Dr. Kravchenko says while a lot depends on a person's specific makeup and what's actually found in the ash, children are especially vulnerable.
They could be easily contaminated.
Dr. Kravchenko thinks regulators need to test soil that contains coal ash. While Duke Energy has long maintained coal ash is not toxic,
several of coal ash's ingredients are toxic.
environmental attorney and chemical engineer Chris Nidell is quick to clarify.
That makes coal ash toxic.
WCNC Charlotte asked Nidell to analyze Duke Energy's coal ash test results collected between 2015 and 2019 from the Marshall Steam Station.
It's absolutely unsafe.
He noted the utility's own testing identified several cases where arsenic levels were much higher than those in the natural soil found in Mooresville, some at least more than 10 times higher.
These are unacceptable levels.
We don't know if Duke Energy has also tested its coal ash for radium, which is a radioactive carcinogen.
Don't want to take any chances here.
Radium is one of the metals a scientist is testing in our samples. That same scientist recently analyzed a sample from a stream bank at Reed Creek Park in Mooresville, and according to this letter obtained by WCNC Charlotte, identified elevated radioactivity, more than 4 times higher than approximate background levels.
Radium is a carcinogen. All right. There's also arsenic, another known carcinogen, and in that case, it's very high, above the natural soil level as well, 69 times higher than the state, North Carolina's own soil remediation goals. And there's also, by the way, 4 dozen other elements that are in this coal ash that we brought to the scientist. And he said, Dr. Avner Van Gosh is his name. You're going to hear from him in a second. But he goes, this really isn't about one or two elements. This is a cocktail of toxic elements. And we're talking about that combination. We don't know what the impact could be on kids, but it could be even more significant because it's a combination. Let's take a listen.
We have knowledge first about those toxicity and the impact of the individual elements in coal ash on human health. Second, we have some experience from the past. Now, having children, which is even more vulnerable population, and having chronically exposed to dust and even direct into the mouth, touching soil containing coal ash, could be really problematic for the health of those children.
They knew there was coal ash
Right.
because of us and because really of a local woman who's been trying to raise awareness about this for several years. Mostly people have not listened to her. She was right. There was coal ash under and around that property.
So I heard that parents are being told that the coal ash was placed only under this bus parking lot. Now, there are no records to prove this at all in any way. What we do know is this area was part of the first 96 injection wells that were dug for part of Duke Energy's experimental project out here for a geothermal injection well heating system. Now, I have records that prove that area is definitely way bigger than just this bus parking lot. So, and images that show them, the trucks, the workers out here in areas that definitely look like it's other than this bus parking lot. But the point is there's not documentation of exactly where the coal ash was placed. There's 3 types of coal ash fields out here. There's bottom ash that was used as structural fill, and then there's coal ash, regular fly ash, and coal ash rejects that was used as flowable fill. And no one knows exactly where that was placed. The only people that are saying this is what? Some Duke Energy people that didn't keep records? The DEQ that didn't keep proper records? Who have allowed, half the coal ash structural fields in the state to become contaminated? Because there are no regulations. There are none, really. I've heard that there were proper regulations used for out here, and that's just so not true. So let's walk around the side of the school, and I'm going to show you where the rest of the test bed is that we know for sure where they placed injection wells. Now, there's never ever been an inspection at this site done by the DEQ at all in any way. This site did not fall under the regular regulations of being placed at least 18 inches down, or so many feet from the side of a building or the side of the property line. If the DEQ were to come out here and do an inspection, all they would do is walk the property and look to see if they saw coal ash exposed. And I've seen those inspections taken from their car windows, so they're not required to do any type of testing for radiation. They're not required to do groundwater testing, bore samples to see how far down the ash is or exactly where it is. They're not required to test the ash in any way. Even if they were to find exposed coal ash out here, as we did over at the Tudor time, they still wouldn't be required to test that ash because regulations are so slack in North Carolina. That's why we're saying, please don't turn to only the DEQ for answers, because they are the ones who allowed this to happen in the first place. We need to talk to the real scientists. You need to get people like Dr. Avner Van Gosh out here to do real tests. I may not be a scientist, but I am a researcher, and I've been doing it for a long time. And I have found coal ash at these sites. I've had coal ash from coal ash structural fields tested that I found using my method, and it came back showing high levels of radium and uranium, but not only that, it had high levels of heavy metals. You know, so that's not all you're worried about, that radiation in the ash. That just kind of helps us to try to find it. Now this bed out here, this area looks like it's in the map of where the original test wells happened. What you're looking at over here is the back of the school, and a building that was, the back half of this building was actually constructed after the test wells were placed. So I believe some of the test wells do indeed run under this building right here. In the email I read, it said it was not under any buildings. I disagree, at least for the injection wells. I believe the injection wells run underneath the back half of this building to the middle of the school. So my method to find the ash is to search for the gamma radiation. Now we've tested other coal ash structural fields and been able to find that coal ash by searching for that gamma radiation. And that coal ash has been tested and came back with those high levels of radiation. Out here, I've never seen such high levels spread out over a big area. Now, I'm not saying that means that there's coal ash under everywhere we're getting high levels, but there's something causing that. And I think it's either the coal ash or the coal ash is leaching into the groundwater possibly and over into areas where it wasn't placed originally. That's possible. That's a theory. But we're sticking to facts here, and the facts are I'm definitely getting high levels all across this school, especially the soccer field. These children should not be out here playing until this is tested by real scientists. But you know, even if you don't consider the Geiger counter readings as should be taken seriously, you still have the fact that we know the coal ash is here. Children should not be near coal ash. Like, this stuff is so dangerous and so toxic. Like, the scientists say that to find even small particles of coal ash in soil is alarming. That's a direct quote from Dr. Van Gosh at Duke University. Exposure to coal ash can cause all kinds of cancers, and it may not even show up to begin with. It can have a latency period where it's a decade or more before those cancers show up. It can cause ADHD, learning disabilities, neurological disorders, heart, lung, reproductive issues, soft tissue issues, Alzheimer's. The toxins can attach to the DNA, literally attach to the DNA, and show up in the children of those exposed as birth defects. It's nasty, nasty toxins. It's radioactive. It's very dangerous, and some of your most vulnerable people are children, especially down low to the ground. You know, like I said, even if you completely disregard what we're finding out here, you have to take the facts that the coal ash is here. They don't know where it's at. And for someone in a position of power to tell the parents that they don't have to worry about it, we'll get this taken care of, laid to rest quickly. That's ridiculous. Shame on you. Shame on you. So I'm hearing the parents are being told several things like there's no coal ash under the playground. They have nothing to worry about. Everything I say is misinformation. It's all under the bus parking lot. There's no proof of any of that. They have no clue of where that coal ash is. At least they're admitting it's out here, huh? But they're downplaying it like, oh, it's no big deal. Yet the scientists are saying one small particle of coal ash is dangerous. The dust the kids breathe in. These kids are out here rolling around on this playground, on the soccer field, all over. And we're just supposed to write it off because, oh, it just must be my emotions. I just must be emotional. That's all it is. Risk your kids' lives playing on top of coal ash because I must be emotional. That is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. And shame on them for trying to pawn that off onto the parents. That is ridiculous. They have no clue of where the coal ash is out here. They only know it is out here. You know, they're claiming it's under the bus lot. Well, I heard Duke Energy said the coal ash structural field was under some truck road they created. And the flowable field is in their injection wells. There's nobody out here doing any testing to make sure that hasn't risen to the surface. There was nobody testing to begin with, making sure they put it way below the surface. There's no one testing to see if it's leached. There's no one out here testing for radiation. There's no one testing anything. And you're expected to just not worry about it at all? Because the school says I'm emotional? Are you insane? Okay, yeah, risk your kids' lives over that. People demand the scientists be brought in. Use your common sense. Spend 5 minutes doing your own research and hear what the scientists have to say for yourselves. You know, and this isn't just about the reputation of any principal or any school administration, because y'all are going to come and go. There's going to be kids at this school for who knows how many decades to come. There's been children who have already been possibly exposed since 1996. This isn't just about you. You have to prove it's safe. The victims, the parents, they don't have to prove to you that it's safe. We already know it's a coal ash field. You have to prove to them that it's safe, and you have to do that using facts and science, not some hearsay that you heard. Let's start writing the state senators and people, because we obviously need to go up some pay grades here, people, because we're all being blown off, apparently, as being hysterical and emotional. The kids deserve better than that. Help me make that happen. Thank y'all.